So welcome to Boxing Media Hub, proudly in partnership with Falcon Contracting and Jam's Boxing Chat. And we've now got a special guest. I've got Foreman. How you doing, I?
Yeah, that's me. Today, y'all got me today. I can't even say nothing.
How you doing? Are you all right?
I'm doing good, man. Doing good. The weather's finally starting to turn down here from the blistering heat. So I'm finally enjoying being able to go outside.
Oh, I feel for you. We've got the storm that you had prior, so it's now come
Mm.
over to the UK. So we're
Mm.
enjoying that at the moment.
Mm.
But
That's bad for business, then.
we got to be blessed that we're here, aren't we? We're blessed that we're here.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
But yeah, so obviously a lot of people are going to know the surname. I think it's a bit of a given in the boxing world.
I can't
It
do nothing about it.
yeah, you can't even go into boxing without talking about George Foreman. What a legend! But we are here to talk about you. And yeah, when did it all start for you? When did you get into boxing? Obviously, there's a big influence in the family anyway. But when did you sort of lace up the first pair of gloves?
Believe it or not, I did not lace up my first pair of gloves until I was 25.
Wow, okay.
Believe it or not. I know that sounds insane and crazy, but there was always times where I would run into the gym, walk into the boxing gym and stuff like that. And I think my dad and George, they secretly had a thing because my mom didn't want me to fight growing up. I mean, she couldn't stop everything. Like if I was gonna fight at school, after school, in the neighborhood and stuff like that, you can't stop all that. But it was always something that I always wanted. It was always something I was interested in, and she wouldn't let me actually fight when I was a kid, because unfortunately I was a 2 to 3 sport athlete at all times. So no matter what was going on, it was well in middle school it was definitely the 3 sport. Even leading up to middle school, it was baseball, football, track, and basketball. And then by the time I got into high school, it only began to football and track. Well, the problem is once football is over, track actually starts in the winter. I didn't realize that. So track, some indoor track and stuff starts early, and then it goes into the season at that point. And then so at that point in time, it was I was always in and out, and I just by happened to be good at shot put. I had a massive right hand, and so I was good at shot put as a freshman. So that's how it just took my time. It was never a moment for me to be like, I'm gonna cut it out and I'm just gonna fight. But she wasn't having it either.
Yeah. So she was quite pleased, really, that you were just rolling into different sports and just kind of making your way through everything, but going
She
into that.
Yeah, that is something that she was like, nah. I remember asking her. I think it might have been about sixth, seventh grade, I want to say. I think I remember asking her, and she was like, the excuse was, nah, you already doing too much, you already doing this, you doing that, and. But looking back at it now that I can remember some of those things, the tone of me asking about it, her was like, nah, you know, which is kind of heartbreaking in a sense. But when I left for school, then came back, went to the Navy, and came back home. And I was like, I think I came back. I came back home not long previously prior to the deployment, and then I was in shape when I came back home. I was in crazy shape, right? And then the problem is I came back home in March. I want to say no February. I came back home in February. From February all the way to Mother's Day, which is like the first weekend of May or something like that. Man, I was like, I gained like 70 pounds. So I was like, I got to do something. And so from that point on, I said, all right, let me just go do the workouts and all that stuff like that. And that's how it happened.
Yeah, yeah. So surely it was just a natural thing for you though to go to the gym because obviously you were always a guy in sports. You were always surrounded by keeping fit and just doing the best you can be. Do you know what I mean? You know, and so the gym sort of just follows on, doesn't it? From finding that next thing to do, and then obviously the dread kicks in for mum as you then go into boxing. And did anyone else try and influence you, or was it a case of mum's word was the one that everyone listened to?
Nah, nobody actually ever tried to influence. Nobody tried to influence me one way or the other. Um, when I chose to actually start training, because at first it was just the drills, the workouts, and stuff like that. One of my cousins was in charge of the gym at that time frame, so it was just listening to him doing all the drills, doing the footwork drills, doing the bag drills, hit jump roping, uh I had a thing before I would go to the boxing gym. Every before we because the box it was the George had it set up to there was a basketball gym on one side, and then there was the weightlifting and cardio stuff like that equipment, and then the boxing gym was its own separate building. So, but before I would go into the boxing gym every single day, before I would do anything, I would always go in there and run 1 mile, and then I would do 3 miles on the bike, and then from that directly I would go do start at the jump rope. That's how I would start my boxing workout every single day, just like that.
So that was just the routine. That's what you did, and then over to the boxing gym. And Jam has jumped in. Big shout out to Jam. He said, "Did you get in a lot of fights at school because of your surname, or must it have made you a target for bullies with the four-name surname?" Do you know?
You know, I didn't I didn't have to get into a lot of fights at school. Because I had respect amongst a lot of people, but it wasn't. I had respect away from my name itself. The people that knew me, everybody at school, no matter what neighborhood or what hood they came from, they respected me, and that, so I didn't have too many issues. Now, did I have some issues with some folks that came from other places? Oh, absolutely. And we handle that. We handle that in different areas of life. But I didn't have too many issues because it was always a respect thing.
Yeah, yeah. I think, to be fair, I don't think it was just local neighbourhoods. I think that name had respect ripple across the globe.
Well, and
Um,
it was also how I carried myself too. So
yeah,
I was always the equal playing field with everybody, no matter where I was at. It was never I was always too I'm up here, you down here, or whatever it is. Nah, I treated everybody the same way. So everybody kind of gave me that same respect back, that reverence that you get back.
yeah, no, 100%. And my wife's jumped in. She's put pay the toll. Brilliant.
The
She's
paper told that is about the most genuine thing I think I can think about it. The name actually comes from two ways. Pay. Oh wow, I didn't know I get
you,
confetti.
you get confetti as well.
Uh,
Wow,
but the pay the
take
toll
the
comes
confetti.
from
Take the
yeah,
confetti
man.
on.
So I celebrate pay the toll, I guess. But the name comes from one of my good friends. They were at the gym actually when I first started going. There was a family, a group. They're a Mexican family, the Obregons, and they have a paint and body shop that's off the toll road, not too far from where I live at now currently, not too far from it. And so we were just talking one day, and I was just like, they was like, man, we ought to start a gym. And I was like, maybe. And I was like, man, we could just call it pay the toll. And I was like, because technically the tollway is right here. You got to pay to ride the toll, but you also got to come pay a toll to work out in this gym as well. Because if
Yeah,
you want to come train with us, you want to come work out with us, I put him through the gauntlet. Like that is one thing I don't play around. And then you got to spar me at the same time to earn it. And then as you're sparring me, the family is sitting around there. Or if you're sparring me, or if you're sparring the older brother who fought Josh, AB and Josh, if you're sparring one of us three, we all sitting around there watching and trying to, and we're gonna approve it or we're gonna say no. So the toll, and then that's where the pay the toll comes from. And I guess the third way is I choose to talk about boxing because there's a toll I paid on my way to do this.
yeah.
I had to go through every single feeling, every single emotion of what it is to fight, get ready for a fight, think you want to fight, what it is to get hit, after you get the head back, to win, to lose. Like there are things that go along with the sport that I paid every single way for it.
And obviously, once you got into boxing, did George give you any advice?
Stay away. Stay away. His first advice,
Don't do it.
for the first 2 years, for the first 2 years, I did not have a good chance at getting a lot of amateur fights at all. George at one point in time told me to change my name in the book, in your amateur booklet that we carry around in the USA. And he was like, "Hey, you might need to change your last name to your mama's last name." and all of that. And he wasn't wrong in a sense, but and the only reason I remember him saying, I think the word got back to him is we trying to get him a fight, but it's not everybody's just not. Even though like I was just starting off, everybody's not going for it. So I only ended up having, I want to say, about 6 amateur fights total. Now, the downside, but the plus side of that though is I left George's gym for a while. Not in a bad way, nothing like that. But I went to go train with a guy named Ron Tequila Collins. Ron was a former fighter. He fought he was the Julian Jackson's training partner, actually for a while. And then he ended up fighting Julian later down in his career. But I ended up training Ron. I ended up training with Ron, who knew my dad and all of them. So when I went over to Ron at the current time at that time frame, there's a prospect at 118. His name is Michael Angeletti. Ron was training him. Ron was training. Angeletti was like number 2 in the nation, or 2 or 3 in the nation at that point. There was another guy named Joseph George, who was the number 2 light heavyweight in the country. Then there was Quentin Randall, who fights this Friday on the Zone. Quentin was like the number 2 to 3 welterweight in the country. He ended up becoming the Team USA captain for the 2016 Olympics, actually. And then
Blimey.
there was another guy named Cedric Washington. He doesn't fight anymore, but Cedric was he was the number 1 regular heavyweight number in the state. But he was like number 4 or 5 in the nation, something like that, just on principle. So like for that whole year frame where I did not have a fight, I was in the gym getting my ass beat by like for real. They used to when they took me. That's why I love those guys, and I can still communicate with all of these guys, and even get the respect from the other top fighters that know them, and then they'll say like, "Oh no, he good. We know him. We know where he come from." Because every single day I showed up to Ron's gym, no matter got our workout warmed up and all that stuff in, and then they was like, "Come on, you in the ring. Like you with me today. You with me today. You hitting the bag with me today. You finna spar with me today." And like that's where I learned that your power ain't everything every time. You got to learn how to. If you can't get it off, it ain't mean about nothing.
Yeah, yeah. As you say, you got to learn, and because you're fighting all different people all the time, you're learning
Oh, every
different
time,
techniques. You've got different opponents, different approaches. You
every
know,
single time.
you're gonna have to learn the hard way, aren't you? And it sounds like you really did by the way you were reeling off what the levels these guys are at. You know,
Man,
I bet you must have thought, oh, maybe this just isn't what I want to do. Do you know? Or
absolutely,
yeah,
absolutely, absolutely. There's a point. There's a point I want to say for about, oh my god, probably about 5 6 months straight. And it was just kind of like, God, I am tired of getting my ass. Like I know it's training, you working on it. And boxing is not the easiest. It's like learning how to walk. Literally, if you're like a child trying to learn how to walk, let alone how to fight. And man, I just remember finally getting tired one day. It was with Joseph George. He was getting ready for a fight. And we used to spar 15-minute rounds. So like it was like one session in the first. I remember like first couple minutes, and I remember being like dog tired. This is my first time going to 15 rounds straight, too, 15 minutes straight. And remember Joe, I was coming out swinging, boom, 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 boom. And Joe was leaning, he was rolling with a lot of punches, moving me, hitting me, jab, stuff like that. He was a slick fighter, very slick fighter. And he was out there yelling, "See, coach, he about to be tired already. I'm finna whoop him, I'm finna break him down." And I remember saying, like, what? And it was just that day that it just, for some reason, I'll never forget that day. That might have been the best day I've ever had in the gym that day. But I stuck with him. I stuck my head dead in his chest that day. And that was the first day that all of them there that day was said, "Boy, you one of us now." And because I had to go out there and prove it.
yeah. This is
I
it.
had to go out there and prove it.
I sparred ex-pro in London, in his gym in London, and all he kept saying to me, I remember moving around and I was just going through the motions, and he went, "Don't look down, don't look down, you'll go down, don't look down," and he kept saying
Mhm.
it the whole time, which kind of made me like be even more aware, but it made me feel even more anxious because I was thinking, well, okay, and yeah, he'd beat me before I'd even got in there because
Yeah,
mentally
yeah, he had already
he was
done the
already
damage.
chatting
Yep.
away. He was doing the typical Ali thing where he's already got you. and it it's amazing, isn't it? Just to go in the ring and have a taste or a flavour of what these guys did, and we're talking about how big Uncle George was, you know, but how that guy could move for those amount of rounds, the power he still possessed, he was incredible. And we see it now, don't we? Don't get me wrong, they're like a different breed now, athlete wise, aren't they? But back then, they were heavyweights. They were
Mm-hmm.
big guys, and they were incredible to go the length that they like 15 rounds back in the day. Incredible. And
George,
you must look at your Uncle George and just think, wow, you know, what a human being.
yeah, especially George trained me for 1 year after my first loss. Literally, directly a whole year. Wouldn't let me fight for a whole year. I didn't actually get a chance to spar even until like I didn't get a chance to spar until like a couple months before the fight. Like before a whole year, um, he had me do everything of a lot of his old everything of his old drills.
Yeah,
Like he reinvented the wheel in a sense, and I lost some skill in the middle of that because there are things he ended up you do something for so long you kind of develop that habit after a while. So I lost some skill in that moment, but it also made me subconsciously aware of different punches and conditioning. There's there's three specific, man, I get balloons now too.
you got
Uh
balloons. What's going
Man, I
on?
don't know, but
Where's my balloons?
I get it. There was three specific drills on different training days to where uh the training itself is what taught me the cross guard that Archie Moore taught him. And I understood
Yeah,
that's why people can't go into the fight and do it today, because it's a way to do it and a how to do it, but you have to learn it for yourself by actually doing this one drill. And I think that was the most significant thing I said. Okay, I figured out how Archie did it, and now I got to figure out how to fight out of it. And that's exactly what it was. So but it was the best shape of my life. And I remember I didn't even know I was in shape for real. The first day we were sparring, I remember getting ready for that fight. The first day we were sparring, he was like, "Hey, just go out there and just throw a bunch of punches. Don't worry about nothing else. Don't stop throwing. Just throw." And I was like, "What?" I was like, "That don't even make no sense." And I'm not even joking you. He yelled every single time if I stopped, took a breath, and did not throw a punch. He yelled, "What are you doing? Get out! What are you doing? Why are you not throwing punches?" Every single moment. There was never a stance to that. And it was that day. I think we did 8 rounds that day, and it was two different
it felt
guys.
it felt about 16.
Yeah, it did. It was 8 rounds that day, and it was two different guys. He rotated them round for round. So they were fresh bodies, and I was like, "Phew." I was like, bro, what was going on today? I was like, bro, what was this problem? Like, what is this? And
What have I done
then
wrong?
yeah, and then the next day, the next sparring day, I go into the gym. I come off of work and I go into the gym, and there's 4 guys. And I said, okay. All right, I know I'm going to work over these boys a little bit. One of them I wasn't going to work over. His name was Eugene Hill. He was a heavyweight here in Texas too. Eugene was an old Savage veteran too, man. And he traded those guys in round for round, all 4 of them. So I had to adjust all 4 ways round for round. And boy, we did that for 16 rounds. And that's when I was like, there's no way I'm finna make it to 16. I was like, there's no way. But by doing that, you also develop other game plans for your own fight in the middle of that. So you get a chance to figure out what conditioning you have. Okay, this defensive tactic works with this defensive tactic works with this offensive tactic works with this. You do this for the middle of that when you feel these different ways. You don't think about the guys that's in front of you and their styles. the
Yeah,
the thing George harped on was plan your work or work your plan. You have your plan, go in there and work your plan.
I'll tell you, you can't get better advice, can you? Let's
No,
be perfectly honest. From a guy
no,
that's
no, no.
been
And
there,
I,
done it, and then been there and done it again. Do you know what I mean?
yeah, yeah, yeah.
It's not
You
like,
can't. It's hard
you
to
know.
tell a man who was trained by Dick and Sandy Sadler, and and just having George. I mean, think about Sonny Liston and all those guys. Like you can't. It's kind of hard to tell a man who grew up around the hard cats like that. He had Angelo Dundee as his cut man, basically the coming back as on the comeback, right? He had Archie Moore in his corner. He had Charlie Shipes in his corner. It's kind of really hard to tell somebody who accumulated, if we counted the years of boxing that George has in his head. George probably has about 300 years of boxing in his head. And it's very, very hard to tell somebody something different that he's seen, right?
Yeah, yeah,
There's, even if he's wrong about a pick, he can tell you exactly the reason why where it went wrong and before, even during the fight. Even during his HBO days, people loved him because he made things seem easy as they were going on. You know, which is also why partially somebody hated a couple people hated him because he would he would tell the story of the fighter who was really winning the fight instead of the fighter who they wanted to win the fight.
yeah, yeah, yeah. Well, do you know what though? I think he was always an honest man,
Correct.
and I think you can tell that even if you know George personally, or you've seen him in interviews, or he's always been the same. And I think even the film that came out recently as well, which massive fan of. I thought that was a wicked film. Big George Foreman, brilliant.
Mhm.
Um, and the guy that played him, fantastic. Um,
Yeah, did a
just
great job, man.
just a great film that showed George in this amazing way of how he held himself,
And he
even
got
in
a
the
chance to
low.
see it. That's the thing about it. He lived long enough to see it.
Yeah, and how many do? How many do?
Yeah, I mean,
You
they
know,
really do.
you normally get sort of your legacy film once you've passed. George has proved time and time again the sort of man that he is, and he deserves to get this recognition. And as I say, as a family, you can tell by yourself, and others around him, that what people say about him, that you're just an amazing family. You
Nah,
know,
George is done. George is the product of if you do the work on yourself, you get yourself together,
yeah,
everything can go for you when you do things the right way. And that's
yeah,
he did everything the right way. He was blessed with one life, as he is always saying, this life I was blessed with doing it, but now I went to the second life, and I had to, I was helping people out this way, and now I needed to help my kids and family keep the youth going. Now here's my third life, I'm doing it all over again, and he never
yeah,
stopped doing it. So
yeah.
it's
I
just
just being a man of God as well. I can just see, you know, that kind of that second run. Do you know what I
yeah,
mean? I've done things in the past, and then you know,
you move
then you have
on.
that. Yeah, you have that second run, and it's almost like God goes, "Now this is a season for this," and George just grasped it with both hands every time he had a different season. He's always run with the season, hasn't he? And
Yeah.
just yeah, incredible. And my wife's jumping in, by the way. Mr.
Oh man, come
Foreman,
on.
what a lovely voice! It's soothing. You sound like you could read a bedtime story. Maybe that could have been a second career choice.
Man, you know what's funny? She's not. Let me tell you something. She's halfway on brand because I actually
Don't
want to do
encourage her.
anime.
Don't
I want to
encourage
do
her.
anime voiceovers, man. I love anime, and I don't necessarily care for the dubs in a sense, but I do understand that it goes region to region, country to country. But my thing is they don't have enough good villain voices. That's my thing. I want to be a villain on somebody's story. Somebody's anime so bad. That is one thing. I love anime, and I love to hear the evil voice of a villain. And I don't
Could,
think that that's something that we missed out on, man.
do you think you could do a real, you know, dark?
Oh yeah, even just my everyday voice would be shoot. He'd be good enough. But if I needed to get sinister, if I needed to, like absolutely, I would 100% could. Like it'd be just damn, it'd be kind of like, hey man, it's pretty scary. Like, why would you think you could come in here? Why would you want to be in here? You think you could come here and defeat me? And if I whatever, I don't know, but
By the
like,
way, just to let
or
you
this in
know,
the same sense that if I had to talk to my daughter when if she's being a
yeah,
little girl this day or
that's where
whatever,
you've
like
learned it.
yeah,
That's where you've learned it.
love it.
That's where you've learned it more than anything. Is your kid. That's where it comes from. That's where you
That's
find
exactly
your.
where it comes
Yeah.
from. It's exactly where it comes from, man.
Well, so
I,
you've gone from villain to I just want to cuddle him, and so there you go. You've you've turned completely in a second there. So yeah, that's what
oh
it's about.
man.
That's what it's
Yeah,
about.
nah, man. But everything boxing wise and all that stuff like that. It's all fun though, man. This has been. I'm like I said. I'm glad I'm doing all of this now. I wish I would have done it. If I would have done these things earlier when I was fighting, I probably would have had a lot easier time. But they weren't wrong for not bothering me because I was not personable at all. I didn't care to talk to people either. I
Yeah,
was
yeah.
like, bro, what are we doing all this talking for? Like, I don't even, like, I just want to go home. I want to eat. I want to work out. I want to watch some cartoons. That's all I got for you. You know,
Sounds pretty good to me.
yeah,
Um,
man. Like, that's it. That's all I can do for you. But I had this little girl and I had to be communicative now. I had to communicate with this thing now. This little 4-year-old thing that's growing up in front of me.
but hang on,
I
she
have
talks
to.
back. You know, she now talks back. This is the problem. This is the problem.
She said, now you telling me what you want to do, what you don't want to do, what you don't like. First off, you need to shut up, and that's what you need to do. And I gotta, yeah, I just gotta do those things now.
Nah, 100%. Well, before we let you
Who
go,
said do modern
Retro
heavyweights?
Rewind has said, do the modern heavyweights stand up to those throughout the 70s and 80s?
No. And it's not no because of
Say it as it is.
it's not actually. You know what? The short answer is no. The short answer is no because our heavyweights, unfortunately, are being tied up on the offensive line or defensive line of American football. That's why. Like those are some of the best athletes those are the best, especially offensive linemen. I got two defensive linemen I'm working on for the Houston Texans that I'm trying to coach in boxing next summer after the season is over. And if I can teach them, that'll be a different. They want to add it into their repertoire, but like those, the real talented guys don't stand up to what we have. Like I would send, you know, him and George went toe to toe. Man, actually, I ain't that. I would send Ken Norton out here today, and they would have to deal with somebody that vicious, right? And it wasn't just like Ken Norton fought hard. He fought vicious. He fought tough. Ron Lyle, another one that just fought tough. You send somebody like Sonny Liston outside today, and they got to deal with the aura around somebody
Yeah,
like that.
yeah,
Not even
yeah.
just the skill. You got to deal with the aura of a man who was willing to kill you in the ring.
Yeah,
That's
they
a
had
whole
the
different ball game.
never give up, didn't they? Attitude. You know, they had
No,
that installed into them, the old school fighters. They had the you've literally got to beat me. You've got to beat me on every level, not just put me down.
even
Yeah,
George, like 90s George was 90, and that's the thing of difference. 90s George was not trying to knock you out. That's the difference that people don't really understand. Even if you can go look back at those fights. Yeah, he got some knockouts just because the punches landed, and George had hands the size of bricks.
yeah,
But he was not the only two people he tried to knock out. One of them was Jerry Cooney, and Jerry Cooney hit him with a shot in that second round, the end of that first round, where I wish my dad would have still made it on time. Um, he came back to the corner and he told my dad, and he said, "Nah, he gotta go." because Jerry Cooney had landed a right hand on George and it hurt him. He was
Yeah,
like,
yeah,
"Nah, Cooney hurt,"
yeah.
and he was like,
Can't
"Nah, I
take the
got
risk.
he got to
Yeah,
go." And
yeah, yeah,
in the Michael Moore fight, he knew he was going to knock out Michael Moore, but he knew it was going to have to be later. And that was just simply because the negotiations for Michael Moore is what pissed my dad off. But because of the negotiations, they came to the table and they told all of them we had $12 million. And George said, "Give him all of it. Give me 1 million, and I'll take it and give him 11. He the champion." And just George let it be. Gave Michael Moore the glove choice, the Reyes gloves for some reason. Still don't understand that decision till today. Still don't understand that. And
but that was
like
George.
George let him do it, but he told my dad. My dad said, "Man, we had to stop middle negotiation while we was talking at the table." And walked outside because he was like, "What do you mean? Give him $11 million, George? The people are gonna watch his fight because of you." George hadn't fought either prior to Michael Moore. I think about a year and change prior to Michael Moore. I think he was just just commentating. He was just done. He was cool. And but they need HBO and them needed to sell Michael Moore after beating Evander Holyfield for the title. So you got to do something, right?
Yeah, yeah,
You
yeah,
need somebody marketable. You need somebody that's going to be worth the fight. You didn't want to see a rematch. You got to feel something out. And Michael Moore was the last person he knew he won. He knew he was going to knock out. Like he knew it. He said, "I'm gonna catch him dead in the middle. He's gonna turn. He's gonna come to me. He's gonna sit in the middle, and I'm gonna land the right hand right on him." And if you go back and look, that first right hand lands up too high. That was the problem. That first right hand that stunned Michael Moore, the first one lands up here, and then the second one he gets him right back in position, and he lands it on the chin. It's so sad to watch that fight if you watch the full broadcast because Teddy Atlas told him Michael Moore mid fight that he's trying to line you up for a right hand for later in the fight. Stay away from George. But Michael Moore's ego, bravado, as a
yeah.
fighter, rightfully so, as a fighter, I got the old man. The old man ain't got nothing. But George, I had already knew a trick against Michael Moore that he had paid attention to from commentating all the fights. Michael Moore couldn't lock out his arm all the way. He had a slight bend in it from doing too many weightlifting and other workouts, so the jab was
That's
never ever
unbelievable.
full extension. I go back and watch the fight.
That's unbelievable, though, isn't it?
Go back and
That
watch the fight.
to use your knowledge, though, in that in that moment, to from analysis to putting that into action, because it's great to know, but to actually
To know how much
do,
power you can take
yeah,
when you can take it.
yeah,
Yeah, he knew it. He said he knew how
unbelievable.
much. He said I knew how much distance I had. He said I knew I was going to get hit. I mean, you don't even think about getting hit because whatever. And Michael Moore was considered himself a puncher, and he was not a puncher. You were a puncher at like heavyweight. You not a puncher like that up here with the rest of us.
Yeah,
You may be faster in some of the things like that, but you're not a puncher. Like I'm a puncher. You not a puncher. Um, so he knew in the middle of the fight. That's why you never saw no panic out of anybody in the corner. You literally everybody was just kind of like, George say he got it. He cool. He never panicked in that fight. You never heard nobody. You never saw in the corner, George, you got it. Nobody was yelling because he kept everybody cool. Don't worry about it. I got it. And that was the whole theme leading up to that camp. He said, just don't worry about it. I got it.
what a legend! What a legend! And
Yeah, man.
he just, yeah, the name Foreman's going to ring on for forever. I don't care what anyone says. Just
Yeah, I
unbelievable.
don't, and it will because I don't think like. So here's the thing about George. George probably is not on the Mount. He's not the Mount Rushmore of a lot of boxing people in general, and rightfully so, right? Because we can literally look at a bunch of folks that were better than George, but you'll be hard pressed to find many heavyweights better than George. Like that's just
Yeah.
as simple as it is. You're not. I mean, even
And
as
to do
great
it
as
in the
he,
fashion though,
even as great as he was, um, I think this was still in the '90s. Uh, Lennox was still the younger man, but Lennox didn't want to fight George because he was too big. They said he was too big, and I get it. And you know that's there. These things are on. These things are on. These things are on record. We can YouTube these things. When they were interviewing George, he was like, "Well, Lennox Lewis didn't want to fight me. Really, Bo and them didn't want to fight me. What else am I supposed to do out here?" You know, Mike Tyson didn't want to fight George. Mike had a different respect for George, though. You know, Mike is a historian. Like we love the sport, and Mike loved George. He understood exactly what Mike understood what George can do, and that's the difference. Evander went down
Yeah.
there on heart and soul, but Mike understood. Hey, he knows there are things that George does. I'm gonna have to pick one of his old fights and I'm gonna have to sit there and watch it with somebody recording, and I'll show it. I'll point it out. I'll point out every single thing differently than what he does, and everybody how much skill George really had. He went about it differently, but how much skill he really had is really astonishing.
I think it's the way he went about it, though. He just, the
It
fact
looked
that,
like
yeah, but I don't think it did though. I think when you know what you're looking at, do you know what I mean? I think when you know what you're looking for, and when you appreciate the fine art, I
Mhm.
think George was just he ticked so many boxes more. People just thought he was, as you say, this big guy, big hands, and he just slugged his way. He
And
was an
George,
incredible boxer,
they didn't understand.
incredible
George
boxer.
learned his hand movements and placements when he would turn those guys left and right. That was literally Sandy Sadler.
Yeah,
Everything like that was Sandy freaking Sadler. Like that's to know that who trained him is
yeah,
it's mind boggling to say, oh, that's where he got that from. Cause it's like, man, this big dude, yeah, he swings all wide. That's just how he went about it. But to see how fluid he was, and okay, if you throw a wide punch, I stick my hand out
yeah,
here. I stick my hand straight out here, not to hit you, but just to make your arm hit me here, and I ain't. That's it.
yeah,
That's why
yeah,
people don't understand. George didn't take the George did not take the damage that people thought he took at all. You know,
yeah.
he just flays his arms everywhere. No, he sticks them directly in the middle of your shoulders. So that way, if you do hit him, it bounces off the shoulder up here first, and it may rub up against here, but you never hit him like that full force. Besides Ron Lyle.
Yeah. And he dictated the fight, didn't he? That was the incredible thing. He moved you where he wanted you to be. You
Correct.
didn't you didn't get that chance to really, you know, you couldn't bully him. There
No,
was no
there
way.
was no
Do you
bullying
know
him.
what I mean? And that's the difference between though boxers back then and boxers now. They might have the athleticism. Do you know what I mean? But
Right.
like you say, George could stick his arm out and you just didn't get close because he got you exactly where he wanted you just by putting his arm out because he
That's
was
it.
he was keeping you at reach, doing what he needed to do, and then the next minute, bang, and it
Yeah,
was like
man. Like
a
he's
brick.
sticking his arm out and then he forcing you to go this way or forcing you to go that
Yeah,
way. There's nothing. What are you gonna do? You can't. Like I said, these guys, the real athletic ones are doing other sports, unfortunately. But nah, uh, they're good. Don't get me wrong. Like even Tyson Fury, as big as he is, don't get me wrong, he's graceful and some of those things, but I would choose Usyk to hang in the 70s and the 80s versus Fury just on the size of Fury back then with George in them. Oh, they would have had him. My God.
yeah,
Oh, yeah, they would have had a field day with a big old boy like Fury. Like, boy, I can punch everything I want to into this.
yeah,
Um,
yeah,
hey, shoot, they would have like Deontay Wilder. Deontay Wilder's too small. He was too small to stay with them back then, especially at that height. Way too small. The ribs. George told me one time, his ribs too pretty. I'd go in there and break every single one.
too
Uh,
pretty. I like that.
yeah, he told me his ribs too pretty. And I had to think, I was like, his ribs too pretty. I was like, what? And I thought about it. I was like, oh, he gonna break them. I was like, yeah, he would. Yeah, I had to think about it. Like, yeah, he would. Ken Norton. Even if you run into the '90s, where Ray Mercer, give me Ray Mercer in today's world, and I would, yeah, nah, man. But these guys are good. They're better athletes for sure. They're
Yeah,
better
yeah,
athletes, but they're not better fighters.
Yeah, yeah, no, 100%. And well, all I can say is it's been an absolute privilege having you on. And it really is just to have someone with that name, but just someone who's a fan of boxing, someone who knows it for what it is, as opposed to looking through the nice tinted glasses that people look at
Oh no,
boxing as
no, no,
as
no, no,
being
no,
just
no.
this glamorous event. You look at it as you know it's technical beauty when you break it down, and
Mhm.
you've been there and done it yourself. You've seen it with your own eyes growing up, and yeah, just what a privilege to have someone like yourself on.
Man,
um,
it's a
it,
privilege for
it
you to
means a
even
lot.
ask me to. I feel privileged for you to even ask me to talk about anything boxing, man. I love this. I love this thing. Like I always say, like the mobster said, I love this thing of ours. This
Yeah,
thing of ours is it's beautiful. You know, even they beat me on the draft that we had with Shy and yesterday. You know, some of the matchups, like I get it, especially Matt from Brunch Boxing. He chose a fantastic card, but like for me, like he chose guys that are gonna go hard every time, and I totally understand it. He's not wrong, but for me, I love to see the arts. Like I love to watch different arts, different setups, and I appreciate every time I can talk about this. Every single time.
honestly. Well, I hope you get your biggest gig today during your voiceover work. We'll have to keep
I
pitching it
hope
out
so
to
too.
people.
If
We're
somebody
gonna have
want
to
me to
keep
read it,
pitching
if
it out.
somebody want me to read a book or a voiceover, let me know. I will gladly be available to record it too.
Do you know what? Your voice, I think you could be an amazing transformer. I think the voice is there
Hey,
to
I
be a
might
wicked
could be.
transformer.
You know what? I'm cool with that. I'm cool with being a transformer too. I don't want to be Optimus. I need to be my own. I
You
should have
need
been
to
like
be the arch
should have
nemesis.
I
You
should have
got
been
to be the arch.
Shockwave. I could have. Oh man, I could have been Megatron. I
It's
might have
there.
been.
It's there.
Dang.
And my wife has said, please book reading. You've
The book.
honestly, it's got. She's
actually,
determined.
actually, my if I ever hit the lottery, I always said my dream would be what I'm gonna do is I'll be a National Geographic. I want to do a National Geographic. I want to spend 1 year. Like I love nature and all that stuff, so
Yeah,
I
yeah.
probably watch every National Geographic they have on all the terrains. So I would like to go do it, and then I want to narrate it, my own it right behind it. Like I would love to
I
do
tell you,
something like
I
that.
can imagine it though. Like it'd be one of the fight scenes. Where you have the animal fight scenes where you've
Oh
got say like
yeah, yeah.
the. I won't go into details because my wife's a vegetarian and she'll be watching it. But
I don't want
you've
no
got
problems with it.
you've got like the polar the seal on the thing and the whales going like that, and I can imagine you going, "Oh yeah, he's got him."
Absolutely, absolutely. Especially they running from the orcas. Oh man, I'd be having a ball with that.
But
Oh man.
honestly, yeah, I think my wife summed it up well. A lovely guy, lots of love, and a good life ahead of him.
Thank
So
you.
yeah, so that's a big shout out from Rachel. If you get that, mate, that's
That
a
means I'm
major
doing
thing.
all right. Oh man, I'm
That's
so
a
thankful.
major
That means
thing.
I'm doing good.
But honestly, I thank you very much for your time. Stay in touch, my friend, as well.
I will,
And
man. I gotta plan me a trip next year. I need to come to one of those damn fights in the O2. That's what it is. I got a checklist I need to start. I need to go ahead and start. I need to start knocking out. That's what it is. I need to come back over to the pond, across the pond again. I remember being in Portsmouth for one of the games,
yeah, yeah.
and then I did go to Portsmouth for one of the games, and we were there long enough for the Man U game actually, and I need to come back. Moral of the story. I need to come back.
Well,
It's
you're
been
you're
10 years.
welcome
Oh yeah, it's been
anytime.
10 years. Man.
You're welcome anytime.
I have Big Ben right here, actually. That's the funny part about it.
But there you go. There you go. It's written. It's written.
I gotta come back.
Um,
I gotta come back.
but honestly, thank you very much. And as I say, stay in touch. And yeah, we'll do this again sometime. More chances to speak about the family and everything you're up to. As I say, I wish you and your family all the love in the world, mate.
Same
And
to you, yeah. Same to
especially
you.
that little girl that's answering back now. Watch out, mate. It only gets worse. Um,
Man.
that'll be the biggest fight you'll ever have.
Oh,
Um,
I don't think I'll ever win. I don't think I'll ever win either.
you won't, mate. But honestly, thank you very much. Big shout out to you, and we'll catch up with you soon. God
Yes,
bless.
sir.